The wind came down off the mesa dry's bone, stirring dust devils through the hollow bones of White Rock Town. Morning light filtered through smoke-gray clouds, laying long shadows across broken hitching posts and sagging porches. A distant creak cut through the silence, the groan of wagon wheels. A woman rode into town, alone. She sat high in the saddle, weather-worn and stiff-backed. Her wide-brimmed hat shadowing a face carved by grief more than time. Behind her a crude pine coffin dragged in the dirt, bound to her mule with barbed wire and determination. The townsfolk paused, murmurs rising like flies. "Lord above," someone whispered. "That's Clara St. James." Children were ushered indoors. The blacksmith removed his apron and backed into his shop. Even the stray dogs slunk away. Clara kept riding. Her eyes didn't waver, not when she passed the saloon with its broken shutters, not when she reached the square, where the old gallows stood like a crooked tree. She stopped outside the sheriff's office, dismounted. Her boots hit the ground with a solid thud. With both hands, she unlatched the coffin, dragged it through the dust, and left it at the door, like an offering to the devil.
Oh.
Then she turned and entered the saloon. The saloon smelled of old whiskey and older regrets. Conversations died as she crossed the threshold. Men shifted in their chairs, suddenly aware of the guns on their hips or lack thereof. Clara approached the bar and laid a blood-stained letter on the counter. The bartender, a stringy man with cloudy eyes and hands that never stopped shaking, stared at the letter as if it might bite. "Read it," Clara said. He hesitated, but something in her tone left no room for refusal. He picked up the letter, unfolded it with trembling fingers, and began to read. "To whoever finds this, they killed my babies. My wife. They wear silver stars but got murder in their hearts. Find Clara St. James. She'll know." A chill ran through the room. Clara didn't blink. Flash. A memory unspooled behind her eyes. The sound of her daughter's scream torn from a burning house. The sight of masked men, badges glinting in firelight, laughing as they rode away. The iron taste of blood in her mouth as a beam pinned her to the floor. The letter was from her husband. She had found it in the ashes. Back in the saloon, no one moved. Clara picked up the letter, folded it with care, and turned for the door. Out on the street, the wind howled like a mourner. She untied her shovel from her saddle, walked up the hill to the cemetery, and began to dig. By dusk, she had laid the coffin in the earth. There was no preacher, no mourner, save herself and the wind. She carved 3 names into the wooden cross: Rose, Anna, Thomas. She knelt. Her fingers brushed the mound of dirt. "I swear," she whispered, "I'll bring them justice, or I won't come back at all." She didn't cry, and not anymore. As stars pricked the velvet sky, a silhouette appeared at the edge of town. A tall figure walking steady through the twilight. He wore a faded Union blue coat, now patched and stained with travel. His boots crunched over gravel, carried no rifle, no pistol, just a Bible bound in cracked leather. He stopped 10 paces from Clara. "Elijah Kane," he said, "you're Clara St. James." She eyed him, measuring. "You here to stop me?" He shook his head. "No, ma'am. I just figured you'd need someone to bury the rest." The graveyard was silent as he knelt beside her, one scarred hand brushing dust from a loose stone. He said no prayer. Clara didn't ask him to. When the sky broke open with thunder, neither flinched. By morning, Clara had packed. She wore her husband's rifle across her back, her own Colt at her hip. She left a small locket on the grave, the last thing untouched by fire. On the edge of town, she paused. "You following me, preacher?" Elijah adjusted his coat. "Ain't a preacher anymore." She studied him, this man with war in his eyes and God stitched into his silence. "Then ride quiet. We got devils to find." They rode west, into the wind, leaving White Rock behind like a page turned in a book written in blood. A dozen miles out, they found the first sign: a bullet-trodden fence, fresh graves, a burned-out wagon. Clara dismounted, examined the tracks. 5 riders, heavy. Spurs wore smooth. 2 on fresh horses. "You know them?" Elijah asked. She nodded once. "I know how they smell." That night, they made camp beneath an old cottonwood. Elijah cooked beans while Clara sharpened her knife. You ever wonder, he said quietly, what's left of a person after they bury everyone they love? She didn't answer for a long time. Just the rage, she said finally. And in the flicker of firelight, her shadow looked like something half human, half ghost, walking straight into hell. The wind carried ashes east. The land grew harsher west of White Rock. Thornbrush clawed at their boots and the sun came down like judgment. Clara rode in silence, her eyes fixed far ahead, where memory and revenge walked hand in hand. Elijah trailed close, reins loose, his gaze scanning the ridgelines like a man expecting ghosts. They stopped only when the horse refused to go farther. At the base of a low rise, the remains of a supply wagon lay strewn like bones barrels split, flowers scattered like ash, a woman's shawl caught on a broken wheel. Buzzards lifted from the wreck with slow, lazy wings. Clara dismounted, crouching to examine the ground. Rider counts the same, she said, brushing her fingers through churned soil. One of 'em's dragging something heavy. She looked up. Or someone. Elijah knelt beside her. They're not hiding their trail. Either they're stupid or they're baiting you. She stood, eyes narrowing. They'll wish it was bait. They rode on, following the trail south. The land dipped into a basin where cottonwoods lined a creek. As they crossed, they heard it a whimper. Clara pulled her rifle, signaling Elijah to hold. She moved ahead alone, boots barely whispering through the brush. She clutched a wooden toy and wouldn't speak, even as Clara knelt before her. Clara held out her hand. It's all right now. No one's going to hurt you. The girl stared at her, wide-eyed and silent. Elijah approached slowly. She ain't wounded, he said softly. She's in shock. Clara nodded. They left her here. She wrapped the girl in her coat, lifting her gently onto the saddle. We'll take her to the old mission outpost, she said. Leave her with someone safe. It was nearly nightfall when they reached the abandoned mission, its stone walls scorched by time and fire. A former friar named Jonas still lived there, tending goats and patching scriptures by candlelight. He took the girl without question, nodded once at Clara, then disappeared into the chapel's shadow. You trust him? Elijah asked, as they saddled up again. No, Clara said, but he's too afraid to lie. They rode out under a purple sky, the first stars trembling into view. Clara's voice broke the quiet. Used to be, she said. I could ride these trails and not fear a damn thing. Now the whole world feels smaller, meaner, like it's closing in. Elijah said nothing for a while. Then, it's not the world. It's the wound. They made camp by a boulder shaped like a skull. Clara cleaned her weapons. Elijah poured black coffee into tin cups. The fire was small, but steady. You think they're close? He asked. They're not running, she replied. They think no one's coming. And Crowley? She looked into the fire. Crowley's the only one smart enough to turn back, which means he won't. Elijah took a long sip, then leaned back against his saddle. You planning to kill him last? Clara didn't answer at first, and I want him to see it coming. They slept light. At dawn, the air smelled of blood. They found the next body half buried near a rock shelf, one of the deputies. A man named Willard Hayes, his badge still pinned crooked to his chest. A knife stuck in his throat. Vultures hadn't touched him. Elijah turned him over. This wasn't you. No, Clara said. This is Kane Dorsey's work. Sending a message. What's it say? She looked at the body. He knows I'm coming, and he ain't planning to run. That evening, they reached a high plateau overlooking the Red River. The water ran wide and slow, coppery with silt. On the far side, the land darkened wilder country, where Law didn't bother to ride. Clara sat her horse, eyes scanning the tree line across the river. They'll cross by morning, she said. Rest tonight, move at first light. Elijah nodded. He dismounted and gathered kindling while she paced the camp's edge like a restless ghost. After supper, she pulled a small photo from her coat, faded and creased. A man, a woman, 2 children, all smiling. Elijah saw it from where he sat but said nothing. Thomas built that cabin by hand, she said quietly. Every nail, every board. Anna helped paint it, said she wanted blue walls, like the sky. Elijah stirred the fire, the silence between them rich with sorrow. Why tell me this now? He asked. Clara looked at him, eyes hollow. Because it might be the last time I speak their names out loud. The fire burned low. a wolf called from somewhere deep in the dark. And in Clara's heart, something colder than night settled in, sharp as a blade and twice as steady. The sky turned leaden as dawn approached, casting the Red River in steel-gray light. Mist rose from the water in long, coiling fingers, as if the land itself were trying to hide what lay ahead. Clara and Elijah stood on the bluff, watching the opposite bank. Smoke curled faintly from a pine grove just beyond the bend. There, Clara said. Her voice held no doubt, only gravity. Elijah adjusted the strap on his shoulder, fingers brushing the Bible tucked beneath his coat. You sure you're ready for this? I was ready the moment I buried them, she replied, and started down the ridge. They crossed the river slowly, the current tugging at their legs. Clara never looked back. Her rifle rested steady in her hands, her eyes fixed on the pines where the men who had shattered her life were still drawing breath. At the edge of the grove, the world grew quiet. Camp sat nestled among the trees. 5 bedrolls, scattered gear, and a fire burning low. 2 horses were tethered near a tree stump, heads bowed. A pot of coffee bubbled beside the flames. And there he was, Beau Crowley, sitting with his back to the fire, coat open, hat pulled low, as if he'd been waiting. Clara stepped into view. Crowley didn't rise. He just reached for his tin cup, took a sip, and exhaled through his nose. I figured you'd come, he said without turning. Wasn't sure how many you'd take with you getting here. Clara said nothing. Elijah flanked her, silent, steady. One of the other men stirred near the bedrolls. Kane Dorsey. Younger than Crowley, but meaner, all twitch and teeth. He reached for his pistol. Elijah drew first. 1 shot clean and final. Kane dropped where he stood. Beau didn't flinch. He was never smart, just fast. He stood now, slow and deliberate. And you, Clara, you look worse than the rumors said. Clara's grip tightened around her rifle. You know what you did? Crowley stepped forward. I did what I had to. That land was worth more than your husband's pride. You think this West gets built without blood? Without a little flame? You burn children? He blinked. Just once. You want me to ask forgiveness? Ain't how this works. I'm not here for repentance. He nodded, slow and grave. You're here to kill me. They stood in silence, the fire crackling between them. Then he went for his gun. Clara didn't miss. Her shot hit him in the chest, dropped him to his knees. He gasped, blood already soaking through his shirt. Elijah stepped forward, watching as the sheriff fell to the dirt. Crowley looked up at Clara, eyes glassy. They won't remember you for this. You'll die just as forgotten. She knelt beside him. I didn't come to be remembered, she whispered. I came to end the story. He died with his mouth open, trying to finish a word. When it was done, Clara walked to the fire and dropped her rifle into it. The wood hissed. Flames licked at the barrel. Elijah watched, saying nothing. I'm done killing, she said. He nodded. Doesn't mean you're done walking. They buried the bodies under the pines. No markers, no prayers. As the sun broke through the clouds, they turned back toward the river. Clara paused. From her coat, she pulled the locket. She opened it one last time, her family's faces soft in the morning light, then buried it under a cottonwood tree beside the trail. Some things shouldn't be carried forever, she said. They rode away slow, dust rising in their wake. Far behind them, smoke curled toward the sky. And ahead, a new wind, weighted one that didn't taste of ash. The land beyond the Red River was quieter, but not clean. It bore no scars of the men Clara had hunted, only the silence they left behind. The trees whispered low secrets, and the trails felt unused, forgotten. For the first time in weeks, her hands weren't wrapped around a weapon. Still, the ache in her chest hadn't gone. They rode through a long stretch of scrubland, neither speaking. Elijah rode with his head low, like a man whose prayers were finished. Clara's eyes stayed on the horizon, where the light bent into waves across the desert floor. By midday, they came upon a wagon broken at the axle, its canvas torn and flapping in the wind. A man in his 50s leaned against the wheel, leg bound in a bloodied shirt. His wife stood guard nearby, with a shotgun too heavy for her arms. In the back, a girl not yet 10 peeked out with suspicion and hunger. Clara dismounted first. The woman raised the gun. We don't want trouble, she warned. I got it already, Clara said, nodding at the man's leg. Let us help. Elijah approached with slow steps, palms open. I know how to clean the wound, but you'll have to trust me. The woman hesitated, then lowered the barrel. We were headed north. Thought maybe we'd find land untouched. There's no such place anymore, Clara said, kneeling beside the wagon. As Elijah worked on the wound, Clara offered the girl a canteen. The child took it, eyes never leaving her. You're not afraid of guns, the girl said softly. Clara paused. Not anymore. That night they shared a fire. The couple John and Evelyn Lorne spoke of lost farms, stolen deeds, and how lawmen turned bandits in broad daylight. They'd heard of Crowley, heard rumors of the woman who buried him. When Evelyn looked at Clara, there was no only gratitude, quiet and honest. You did what no one else would, Evelyn said. I did what I had to, Clara replied. That doesn't make it noble. John looked at Elijah. And you? I walked beside a reckoning, he said, and tried not to become part of it. They stayed with the family for 2 days, repairing the wagon, letting the horses rest. On the third morning, Elijah rose early and packed his gear. You leaving? Clara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. He nodded. North, maybe. Some towns need quiet men. You, she shrugged. Not sure yet. He studied her a moment, then offered his hand. You changed more than the sheriff? Instead, she didn't take his hand. Instead, she stepped forward and embraced him. It was brief but deep a farewell, stitched with fire and forgiveness. Thank you, she whispered. He smiled gently. Ride light. And then he was gone. Clara stayed one more night, helping the Lornes cross the shallows toward better land. When they vanished from view, she turned south again. There was no longer a road ahead, but she followed the wind anyway. A week passed, maybe 2. She found herself in a canyon valley, where the air smelled of juniper and the river sang low. She camped alone, cooked simple meals, and let the silence settle. One evening, she pulled the locket from her pocket, charred but intact. She opened it, looked at the faces, and for the first time smiled, not because the pain had gone, but because she'd survived it.